First story. I cut ties with my entitled parents, who neglected me in favor of my golden child brother. They now came back after 7 years demanding to reconcile, realizing I'm not my mother's affair baby as they had thought all these years. They said I was so mediocre in comparison to my brother that they decided I must be an affair baby. For whatever reason, my parents didn't want me. Once they had my brother, who we'll call Adam, I was pretty much ignored. They didn't abuse me, but I was pretty neglected. Everything was about Adam and how smart he was, how athletic he was, or how he was just the best thing since sliced bread. Then there's me, a pretty average kid who got decent grades, didn't play sports, wasn't super popular, and liked to read books. I can't tell you how many times I heard, "Why can't you be more like Adam?" What made me cut off my family was when they didn't attend my high school graduation. Adam had gotten hurt that morning, a sprained ankle, I was eventually told, and our parents rushed him to the ER because he swore up and down he broke his leg. I only got one text from my mom telling me that they would make it up to me with a dinner at some family restaurant, which I mildly enjoyed. I was done after that. I had been used to being neglected or forgotten about, but I thought they would at least attend my graduation. I moved out that summer to go live with my cousin F30 and her wife in Arizona. Then I blocked them, and they haven't been in my life since. My family did try to get into contact with me after I left, but it was mostly just telling me I was a bad daughter and overly sensitive and didn't care about Adam. Years later, I still don't have any contact with them. I'm now married to my husband, John M. 26, who loves me and treats me like I matter. We also have a daughter 2F that I love more than the world itself. I have a close-knit group of friends and a job that makes decent money that I enjoy. I'm not saying my life is perfect, a dream, or anything, but it's definitely better than my childhood. Which brings me to last week, when my cousin called to tell me they had a message from my parents and my brother. This isn't anything new, but the message itself was. Instead of the usual blame game, my cousin told me that they wanted to apologize for everything. With Father's Day coming up, they were hoping I could come down to visit with my family, and we could have a discussion. I know most people would scream, "Don't. It's a trap. They want something from you." But I'm not so sure. For one thing, none of them have ever reached out to apologize for anything towards me. But I still have connections to my extended family, so I have information about my parents and Adam from them. None of them are sick or dying and need an organ. They're not in debt and need help with finances. My parents aren't hoping to retire and want to be supported. Adam doesn't need help with student loans, scholarship kid, so it could be genuine. But at the same time, I don't know if I care enough to have a discussion. My life has been great without them, so why do I need them now? I wanted them as a kid, but not anymore. However, John says this could be a genuine olive branch since they never apologize. He might be right. Even if I don't agree to have contact, I might finally get some closure, or at least some answers, as to why they didn't want me or why Adam was so much better than me. Should I hear them out, or just tell my cousin to tell them to go step on Legos? I'll take any advice at this point. Comments. Trashcat_attacks. From someone who is also NC with immediate family members. I suggest you weigh the cost and benefit. What? What will it cost you? You. Emotionally, financially, or physically? And is it worth the risk? Walk through possible outcomes, best case scenarios, and worst case scenarios. For me, if they wanted to apologize and talk, I wouldn't be willing to take the time and money to fly to them and do it on their terms. They could have sent a letter, right? The answer is yes. Due to the gaslighting and psychological manipulation my family has put me through, I'd want it all in writing. I'd hear them out, but want to see it before I even give it a chance. OP. They don't actually have my address, so they couldn't send a letter directly to me. But they could send it to my cousin, and she could always give it to me. Square half 14672. I would not contact them. I highly doubt they are remorseful. It's likely that they want something. You have your family now, husband and child. Why allow your parents to say anything? OP. If they did want something, I feel like my cousin would have told me or warned me that something was going on with them. Yet there aren't any signs that they need anything other than have a discussion with me, apparently. DTJ_1. They want access to your daughter. I would be cautious. OP. I thought so too. But my husband said that if they just wanted access to our daughter, they would have tried to reach her when she was born. Unless my brother is suddenly sterile, it's not like they won't get more grandkids. Scupperspot. Girl, you just got past the most miserable babysitting years, the years where you're most exhausted and likely to need a break. It makes total sense for self-absorbed grandparents to only reach out now that she's a precious 2-year-old. In their minds now, they can be fun grandparents instead of helpful ones. OP. Reading this reminded me of what my mother used to say to me all the time. You were a difficult baby, always crying and whining and needy. Your brother was so easy and such an angel. Now I'm thinking you might be on to something like, maybe they didn't want to see my baby in her infancy because they thought she would just like me, and God forbid they deal with that again. Update. 11 days later. Hey guys. A lot of you gave solid advice on my first post, and I really appreciate it. I did ask my friends for their own advice too, but they had a more bust their kneecaps school of thought. Funny, but not so helpful at the time. Anyway, even though a lot of you warned me, I was just too curious to not talk to my family. Still, I told my cousin to tell them that I was not meeting them for Father's Day. I had always intended to reject the idea. I wanted to celebrate John and my Phil for being awesome, and that I wanted to do a Zoom meeting instead. I was expecting them to pitch a fit, but they agreed. Yesterday, we met on Zoom. I made sure to have the meeting at my cousin's house because my house is my space, and I don't like intruders, whether in person or virtually. John was hiding in the room out of sight, and my daughter was with my cousin's wife. Long story short, my mother is a revolving door, and both my parents are idiots. To make it a longer story, my mother had an affair with my Uncle Rickham 60, my dad's older brother, and got caught after she found out she was pregnant. My dad forgave her and agreed to raise me as his, as long as they never did a paternity test. Apparently, it was easier to act as my father if he didn't have confirmation that I was his brother's child. Spoiler alert, I am not Rick's kid. Unfortunately for me, I have always been my dad's biological daughter. Rick apparently can't have kids, and my dad only found out on Mother's Day when Rick's wife made a joke about it. So my parents just resented me all this time because they were convinced I was Rick's child, despite not having proof. It didn't help that I was just so mediocre compared to Adam, like how Rick is compared to my dad. What I mean by that is that my dad has a fancy desk job in a titled position, and Rick is just your average truck driver. So clearly, that must have meant I couldn't be my father's child. They begged for forgiveness. My mom tried to blame my dad for not taking the test. My dad tried to blame it on my mom for being a truck stop for Rick. But they both wanted me to forgive them because they were sick with regret over how they treated me over a misunderstanding. They swore up and down that, even if they weren't always there for me, they still loved me and were still my parents, and we can be a real family now that the misunderstanding was finally cleared up. Even Adam was pushing hard for it. People asked about our relationship in my last post, but there's not really much to say. He was like a roommate. I was never bullied by him, and he didn't really interact with me, though he definitely reveled in our parents' favoritism. Still, they were all very sorry, but I had to understand why my parents acted like they did. Now, everyone wants to make it up to me, be part of my life again, and be the best grandparents and uncles they can be to my daughter. I obviously told them no. Anyone with eyes could see they just wanted forgiveness to make themselves feel better. I told them that my life was better without them, and I didn't need them anymore. They got mad at that and called me heartless, cruel, and a bad daughter for being so unforgiving and for not being more understanding towards them. Because it was just a mistake that I had a shy childhood and had to play second fiddle to Adam. I just told them to forget I existed and ended the call. Then I burst into tears, and my husband had to comfort me. Their insults didn't hurt me, even after all this time of no contact. I'm used to that. But all that time feeling like SHT and self-harming, and wondering what I did to deserve my mistreatment was just a waste. All because my parents were massive douche canoes with chicken nuggets for brains. I'm glad I didn't waste money to go see them. I'm also glad I heard them out for my own closure. They're trying to aggressively reach out and contact me, even getting other relatives to do so. I've already got a bunch of emails and texts this morning, ranging from pleads to just hearing them and insults about being cruel and heartless. I've been ignoring them because I've washed the hands of my family, and will continue to remain in no contact. So yeah, thank you for all your advice. It meant a lot. Comments. Prior_benefit 8453. I'm sorry you had to go through this. What a cluster. Off Kira. The audacity of basically saying, you were so mediocre. Clearly, there was no way we'd ever think you were biologically dads, so really, it's your fault for having been so mid. You owe them forgiveness and understanding, because you sucked too much to be treated well by your parents. H-Mani. You know what? At least you have an answer. It's a moronic answer, but it's an answer. Now you know that your family remains SHT. Good for them. They have each other. Stay on course. You've clearly nothing to gain from mending fences, except being called too average to be some fancy, successful arsehole's kid. Melodramatic mouse. I kind of wonder if they ever did a paternity test on the golden child. That would be interesting and, I bet, possibly somewhat surprising. I think that if anyone wants to get a hold of OP in the future, she should demand one as a stipulation. It would be hilarious if Adam ended up not being Dad's kid. Second story. Entitled Mill decided I should lose my family name and take my fiancé's, which I refused long before. My pa's fiancé called me a woke W, listening to his mother, so I called off the wedding. Now he is begging to reconcile while his mom is harassing me, threatening to ruin my life. Then she said, "It's a good thing my son cheated on you. She is better and perfect for my son anyway." Alternative title. My fiancé called me an awoke W and left me for his mom. Last December, my fiancé M25 and I M23 became engaged. The engagement itself was very unexpected and felt very sudden, as we had only been dating for 2 years. However, I accepted, as I love him, and I couldn't imagine a future without him in it. Since our engagement, we've had several wedding-related conversations, and I've expressed to him numerous times that I would like to keep my maiden name and not adopt his. The reason for this is that my parents never had any sons, and I am an only child. I want to carry on the family name for my parents, and I want my children to have the choice of which last name they want to go by and/or both. I've expressed all of this to my fiancé, and he complied and reassured me that he was okay with my decision on the matter. As the wedding draws closer, I received a call from the cake planner last night regarding our cake, which we had met with him and designed a few weeks prior. He informed us that he had a sample prepared for us to come and see, so we drove there the next morning to sample it. Needless to say, I was a bit shocked when he pulled out the cake, which had the words Mr. and Mrs. Smith, my husband's last name, printed on top. Thinking it was an accident, though I had strictly told him just to write Mr. and Mrs. on the cake, I asked him to correct it for the final wedding cake for our wedding, which was in 2 weeks. He informed me that my fiancé had called him yesterday morning and had asked him to include Smith on top, along with the previous initials. On the car ride home, my fiancé informed me that he was not comfortable with me keeping my last name, and that he had had a conversation with his mother 2 days prior, in which she informed him it was feminine, weak, and woke for him to comply with my wishes, and that he was signing himself up for an abusive marriage. Talking with the rest of the wedding planning staff, I found out he also instructed that the table centerpieces, official handouts, etc., all be changed to have Mrs. and Mr. Smith on them instead of our separate last names, with the help of his mother. After our argument, I informed him that I would call off the wedding if he did not comply with my wishes, and that I didn't want his mother attending our wedding ceremony either way. He moved out and has refused to talk to me since. AITAH. Relevant comments. Commenter. OP's parting comment should be, better a woke W than a pathetic little son's band. OP, I might use this. Commenter. Can I ask how this wasn't apparent before? Has there never been a hard conversation? Any disagreement that your fiancé talked to his mom and followed what she said? Regardless, for my wife and me, family is important, and if we couldn't get along with each other's families, it would be a deal breaker. There can't be a your family or me situation. You guys have to be in agreement on how to navigate family issues while supporting each other and maintaining a healthy relationship. OP, I have no idea. We've had many conversations about this topic, as well as political beliefs, religion, etc. And he claimed to align with everything I did. Only recently has he started coming out with polar opposite views and sneaking around. He's shown some slight jealousy of me in the past, which I suppose could be a red flag. I'm a model, and he frequently brings it up in conversation that he's insecure about it. But other than that, everything else has been really minor problems. His mom has a history of interference. To a different commenter, you're right, the man I was engaged to was nothing like this. Honestly, I feel like I don't even know him anymore, and the thought just makes me sad. I need to call off the wedding. To a third, my future husband and I are both liberals, and we've had many conversations about our political beliefs and opinions regarding last names specifically, and I thought we were both on the same page. He has not expressed discomfort or insecurity with my decision to keep my last name until now, and it just feels so unexpected and out of the blue. Commenter. AITAH. That right there is a guy who's trying to marry his mom, not you. F a bullet. That's a nuke, and you best dodge it. Think about how he and his mother will try to control your life and your future children's lives. Run, girl. Run. OP. I really thought I loved him, and I just don't know anymore. I can't imagine a future tied down to a man who doesn't agree with me, though. Commenter. Your conscience is right. Imagine how much he and his mother would allow a woke W over whether she went out to work and had financial independence, over how to raise any children, over whether to have children. Cut yourself loose. Your conscience won't do you wrong. OP. You're right, his mother is definitely not my cup of tea. And while I thought I could ignore it, this is definitely over the line. Commenter. Info. Who's financing the wedding, please? Because he's looking like a hobo-esque shul beggar. OP. I was financing the majority of the wedding. We have a shared savings fund we are both contributing to. However, I have a higher income than he does and have offered to pay more. To a different commenter. Yes, I have a steady income modeling, own my own place, and have spent the last however many months budgeting and saving for this wedding. My now ex-fiancé was just helping me pay bills for my home by contributing some of his income. Commenter. He called you a W. He doesn't love or respect you. That alone would be a deal breaker for me. Run while you still can. Throw a "I dodged a bullet" party in place of the reception. Or have the food donated to a local homeless shelter. OP. Giving the food to a homeless shelter is an awesome idea. Thank you. I'll definitely check it out. Commenter. I'm stuck on the cake thing. Bakers don't bake an entire wedding cake as a sample. Did you actually buy 2 cakes? OP. The baker was a fairly close acquaintance of ours, and he baked a very small-scaled model of what our cake would look like for us, so we could better visualize it in comparison with the rest of our decor, etc. He went above and beyond, and the model-sized cake was delicious. The lettering, however, was not. To a different commenter. He's my fiancé's high school best friend, and he's an extremely sweet guy. Edit. To clarify, I gave him the opportunity to do couples counseling as well as agreeing that we could do joint last names on any future children's birth certificates, along with trying to have a rational conversation with him. The argument started when he called me a woke W for my decision, the one he had previously agreed to, and that's when I told him it may be in our best interest to call off the wedding and ban his mother. The main reason I'm upset is not because of his desire for me to take his last name, but because he originally told me he was fine with it, and then went behind my back and changed things against my wishes. Update in comments. Next day. Yesterday evening, I made the decision to text my fiancé and call off the wedding. I texted him the following message. Hey. I just wanted to let you know that the wedding is off. Please inform your relatives and friends that the only Mrs. Smith they will find standing near the aisle will be your mom. I will mail back your ring to your mother's address. But please do not get in touch with me after this, or this woke W will take your sorry arse to court. To which he responded with a long profession of his love, including several, I didn't mean it, as well as, it was an accident. I left this message on read and comfortably blocked his number. However, I didn't expect to receive a call from his mother an hour later, who ran her mouth at me over the phone, called me a crazy bee, and informed me that she was going to make my life a living hell for what I did to her son. I already made plans to change my lock and install a front porch camera. But should I be doing anything else to protect myself? I am also receiving nasty messages from my ex-fiancé friends, threatening me for my decision. I will plan to donate any or all food to a nearby homeless shelter, and I like another user's idea to contact the baker and have the lettering changed to woke W instead. I will also contact any of my own friends or family about the cancellation and give my best explanation, as well as canceling the venue, photographer, etc. Thank you all. Relevant comments. Commenter. OP, good for you. I would keep any messages and voicemails and take them to the police for a restraining order. She seems unhinged. I'd also make a simple post or send a message that anyone interested in trying to harass you will have some explaining to do, police, etc. You literally did dodged a bullet, and good for you for not putting up with that bullshit. OP tie. I've already printed out several screenshots and recorded voicemails, just in case I need them in the unfortunate event that this escalates even more. Commenter. Do you have a friend or family member who can come stay with you for a few days? Just in case your ex or mommy shows up. OP, I do. My parents will be staying with me until I can install new locks and cameras. Commenter. It might be a good idea to go stay with family until you get the cameras set up. It is up to you if you want to unblock him, but leave him on hold to gather more evidence, just in case you do have to take this to the police. Unsure how unbalanced his family and friends are, He may want to notify your work that this is going on so they can be mindful as well. Hopefully this is all overkill, but better to be safe than sorry. Treat it like a divorce. Record yourself, gathering anything of his that was at your place, and have someone else deliver it to him. OP. My work is going to be one of my biggest concerns. I work at an agency that I do modeling work for, and I've been doxxed because of it in the past and forced to move. I may talk to my employer there, with whom I am very close, just so he is aware of the situation. I will keep this all in mind. Thank you. Update 2 in comments. 12 hours later. My ex-fiancé's mom just texted me, informing me that my fiancé had been cheating with a girl from his high school during the entire length of our relationship. In her text, she included several suggestive screenshots of conversations my fiancé and said girl had together. I left her on hold. My self-esteem is crushed. Everything else was just the icing on this massive slice of SHT cake. I have never felt more confused, used, broken, and betrayed than I do right now. I feel so physically sick that I want to die. Relevant comments. Commenter. Wow. Your fiancé and his mom are a real work of art. I'm so sorry that you are being made to suffer in this way by them. Hopefully you can find the time to reflect on how much better your life will be without these toxic, woman-hating people in your life. Even if it is not the life you thought it was going to be, it will be a better one. And a million congrats to you for having the courage to call off a wedding so late and at the last minute, for not caving to his weak attempts to apologize, and for withstanding the harassment from his friends and family. You are such a strong person. You are already so much better off, and you will be even happier and better off as time goes on. OP, thank you. That means a lot. It sounds like either way, I was always plan B in my fiancé's life. The only plan B I'm willing to take is a pill to prevent myself from having kids and subjecting them to this father. Third story. OP's entitled, Childless Friend Humiliated Her Parenting and Fat-Shamed Her 7-year-old Son for Fun. Fed up, OP planned to give him an ultimatum and cut ties, but karma got him before that. When he did the same with another friend and got his arse whooped, he was eventually excluded from the whole group. Now, he is begging OP to reconcile, claiming everyone abandoned him. I'm reaching out to Reddit because I cannot stop thinking about this, and I need to know if I'm overreacting to this situation. I 27F was at a friend's house last night with a group of friends from over a decade ago. I had a kid when I was on the younger side, and I am a single mother, so I am the only one in my friend group with a child besides my older sister who is also there. My son, will call him Adam, is 7, and I'll be fully transparent. He's a chubby kid. My ethnic background results in my build being fairly tall for a woman, and I've always been on the thick side with plenty of muscle. However, since having a child, the pandemic, and working from home, I've gained a little more weight than usual as well. My son's biological father also has an ethnic background that is known for being thicker built. As a result, my son has had a larger build since birth. Even when he was skinnier, I hate referencing my son's body like this. He always had thick legs and arms, and he always felt heavier than he looked. Now back to the story. Last night, one of my closest friends out of this group sort of came out of nowhere with a comment saying, "Walking is very important. We should all get to walking more, especially OP and Adam." I sort of shot him a look because it felt out of nowhere. But I didn't say anything because, honestly, he's right, walking is good for you after all. He then continued and said, "Okay, listen, I'm going to just say it. Adam is too big, and you guys need to lose some weight ASAP." This completely took me back, and I said immediately, "You can't just say something like that." He half apologized while laughing and continued to talk about how he's not in sports, and that I clearly don't motivate him to do anything. I guess because I'm also chubby. He was laughing hysterically and making fun of how my son looked and his body, and it just felt so horrible. He then went on to say that he would do better as a mentor for my son. Trying to curve the conversation in a positive way, I said, "You know what? That would be helpful, actually. I'm a single mom, and it is difficult to always get him to sports or get out and going. And I would definitely like to work out more and get into shape. Why don't we do something all together?" He then started going on about how much better he's going to do and how Adam needs to stop being lazy and needs real guidance. Now, I'm not going to list excuses or do a deep dive into the stuff we've been through in the past few years, but I will say it's been a lot. What I will say, though, is that this friend and I are close, but I've lived in a different state for several years, and he definitely doesn't know enough about our home lives to have made those comments. I have played women's professional football for 2 years, and my son was also in football and soccer, and we go on walks daily with our dog. A recent traumatic event left me severely injured and resulted in my son being traumatized as well. He now has severe separation anxiety, and we've only just worked up to me being able to leave for the store around the corner while he's with my mom, sister, nephew, and stepdad. My son also has a lot of sensory issues and a phobia of bugs. I wish I was kidding. It's gotten so bad that it's hard now to take him to outside events without complete meltdowns. And yes, we have been working on it, but it is difficult, especially in the summer months. I have still found ways to get him into indoor sports and still get time in the sun at parks, zoos, and aquariums. I have made my best effort as a single parent, and I will admit that I have failed. There's been times that we couldn't afford the healthy option. Or sometimes I've worked 12-hour shifts and haven't been able to cook. I will take responsibility as a parent that my child has gotten chubbier. But why make fun of and comment on a child's weight? I would understand if he was severely overweight or obese and a doctor or family member had to step in and say something. But even then, I don't feel like the way it was said was kind or constructive. It kind of felt like he was waiting for an opportunity to make fun of mine and my son's weight. And to outright say you could parent my child better is way over the line, especially as a childless male. I've talked to my sister and other family members about it, and she was also uncomfortable with the comments. I think I'm going to talk to him because I do value our friendship. But would I be overreacting if I took a step back from our friendship entirely? Quick edits for clarification. First, thank you to everyone who showed me support. I honestly did not think I would get this many responses, but I appreciate all of the insight and kind comments. I don't have anything juicy to update, unfortunately. Other than that, my friend has texted me since the incident, but only to invite me to a group event. I haven't responded yet, but I'm contemplating whether I should talk to him there or bring it up over text or phone call. Either way, I will update you all once the conversation is over. For clarification, my son was not there when the comments were made. He will sometimes accompany me to events with this friend, but like I said, all of this friend group is child-free, so we usually are not doing child-friendly activities. When we have done child-centered activities together, he has never brought up anything negative about Adam and has always said kind things. My son does regularly visit the doctor, and his weight has never been brought up as an issue. He has never been recommended any diets or weight loss by any pediatrician because he is still growing. I did get worried because of his comments that maybe I was blind to Adam's weight gain as his mother. But family and friends I've asked have confirmed without bias that he is a perfectly healthy boy. We do eat a generally healthy diet on a day-to-day basis. I do impress on him the importance of diet and exercise, and we have cut out fast food save for emergencies and road trips. And he has signed up for a ton of summer camps and sports. That's another reason why his comments felt strange, because he is aware of how much effort I am putting into making sure he is more active since the incident that threw our lives out of whack. Adam has only been out of sports for 4 months, and hasn't been signed up since due to us moving and his separation anxiety. But he was a very active kid before everything that happened. I cut out some dialogue for length purposes, but I absolutely told him to shut down the conversation. I said multiple times to drop it, and called him an arsehole by the end. He didn't take any of it seriously, and sort of rolled his eyes at my attempts to call him out for being a jerk. I shouldn't have just let it go, but I felt like I wasn't going to be heard one way or another. There were some drinks he had earlier in the night. I see a lot of comments mentioning that he might be interested in me. My friend is gay, so it is strictly platonic. I don't think he's negating my being with him, unless he's some sort of LGBT double agent. Again, thank you all for the kind words. I'll update you all with what happens after I speak with him. Update. So, things definitely have taken a turn. Firstly, thank you to everyone who gave me advice, comments, and support on my last post. All of your insight definitely helped me in my decision to not remain friends with this person. However, in light of recent events, it seems I wouldn't have had to anyway. So on to the update. I mentioned in my original post that everything this friend said about my child was said in a room full of our mutual friends. Well, not too long ago, we all attended a gay pride event together and ended up all hanging out. I left early mom duties, but they all continued to hang out and drink. Apparently, after I left, the friend who insulted my kid Jerry and our other mutual friend Kyle, who owned the apartment, got into an argument that grew into a physical fight. Jerry got extremely violent and ended up biting through Kyle's finger and punching his girlfriend in the face when she tried to intervene. He also broke over $1,000 worth of things in their apartment, and from what I heard, the entire place was covered in blood. The next morning I get a call from Jerry, and he tells me his version of what happened. He was drunk. He blacked out. He had no clue until the next morning. It wasn't that bad. I then spoke with Kyle and his girlfriend and got the full version of the night's events that I detailed above. They also spoke with me about how disappointing and uncomfortable his comments about my son Adam made them, as they all know and love my son and know he is well taken care of. Long story short, we have all decided to end our respective friendships with Jerry. His use of manipulation, his blatant lying, and his strange and rude comments have all come to the surface. And as sad as we all are to be losing a friend of over a decade, this has to happen. He is obviously not happy about it and has been contacting us all frequently, calling us arseholes and saying we all abandoned him. Anyway, not the cheeriest of updates, but thank you all again for sticking it through. I'm glad I was able to make my decision to distance myself without also having to lose my other friends in the group. But I feel so horrible that they had to go through that. My gripe with Jerry seems so small now compared to what happened. It seems to have really traumatized Kyle and his girlfriend. But I'm glad that we can all be done with the drama and drunken tirades as well. Thanks for reading. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.